raids was an essential part of the duties. These raids, locally known as Pangangayaw, were usually regular annual expeditions undertaken by whole communities in the very Viking-like fashion. Massive changes to the region began with European arrival. While a settlement has existed on the island for many thousands of years, the city now known as Cebu was officially founded in 1565 by Miguel Lopez de Legazpi with the arrival of Spanish settlers, and the first recorded visit by Europeans came in the form of Ferdinand Magellan's expedition, which landed in Homonhon Island on March 17, 1521. This was followed by Magellan's insane voyage all the way from western Spain to southern tip of South America, all the way to the Philippines. Their goal was to find a new, shorter trade route to link Europe to Asia. So not long after arriving in the Philippines, Magellan was welcomed by the king of Cebu, Raja Humabon, along with his wife and around 700 of their native islanders. They did not lose any time and started baptizing the local population quickly after they gained favor from the king, who, according to a story, had an ill grandson. Magellan or one of his men was able to cure or help the young boy. While it is likely that knowledge of Christianity had spread deep into the Far East, this was certainly the first time in history of the Philippines that large numbers of natives were evangelized into the church, meaning that Cebu really could have been one of the earliest bastions of Christianity in East Asia, especially since it was able to spread freely without much persecution, unlike in Japan, where it was outright forbidden, and it didn't really have much competition from the local beliefs, like in Mindanao, where Islam was much more established. But back to Magellan. So on that same expedition, Magellan and his crew tried to land on Maktan Island, some 6 kilometers east of Cebu. They were not given the same acceptance there, especially from Lapu-Lapu, the local chieftain.
When mention is made of the Spanish conquest of the Philippines, the first event that inevitably comes to mind is the Battle of Maktan. Every Filipino schoolchild would know of this story and be taught about it. It has been etched into Filipino nationalist consciousness, and Lapu-Lapu is considered a national hero.
Instead of a warm welcome, the Spaniards were met with a barrage of flying spears, and subsequently the Battle of Maktan was fought on April 27, 1521. Magellan was heavily outnumbered with only 100 soldiers or less, fighting Lapu-Lapu head-on in typical European fashion, utilizing his advanced weaponry. Considering that under Lapu-Lapu's commands there may have been well over 1,000 warriors, this probably at first seems like an obvious foolhardy blunder. In reality, Magellan by this point in his career was an experienced military leader who had faced similar odds when fighting various tribes in South America, including the Aztecs. Technological and tactically advanced methods of European fighting usually prevailed as they scared off local resistance, especially due to European tradition of warfare, which emphasized very direct confrontation that usually resulted in many casualties. This time they did not, and Magellan and most of his soldiers were overwhelmed and killed. Magellan's body was never recovered, and the remaining members of his expedition returned to Spain. Ever since, Lapu-Lapu became a national hero, symbolizing the nation's bravery and capability of resisting foreign invaders. Today, there are 2 monuments standing close to each other on Maktan Island, one in the name of the first national Philippine hero, and one for Magellan, the first bringer of Christianity.
So the story of Spanish colonization continues, as on April 27, 1565, another set of Spanish conquistadors, led by Miguel Lopez de Legazpi, arrived in Cebu. Raja Tupas was the chieftain of Cebu at the time, and he was not as easily swayed as the previous one. He was defeated, and as a result, he became the last Raja of Cebu, drawing to an end the history of Indianized society.
Tupas and Legazpi signed the Treaty of Cebu, which effectively gave Spain control over it. The Spaniards then constructed fortified settlements, with the main one being called Villa del Santísimo Nombre de Jes, and also Fort San Pedro, a military fortification in East Cebu City, to defend the Spanish settlement from attacks by natives opposed to the colonization. Agriculture, trade, and commerce flourished in Cebu as it grew, and its population increased over the centuries as the Spaniards continued their colonization of the Philippines. The fragmented and sparsely populated nature of the islands made it easy for Spanish colonizations. The Spanish brought political unification through conquest of the various small maritime states. One of Spain's main objectives was the conversion of the local population to Roman Catholicism. The work of conversion was not that difficult, mostly thanks to the disunity of the religions that were existing, with the exception of Islam, which was still predominant in the southwest. Over the centuries, Spain never made any profit from ownership of the Philippines. In fact, it was a massive burden, made worse by wars and famine, but it could not withdraw because of perceived obligation to spread Christianity in East Asia.
Initially, slavery was widespread in the Philippines, either between tribes or with early Spanish settlers as well. But this was mostly the case only before the archipelago was integrated into the Spanish Empire, because the Spanish actually established anti-slavery laws in Americas, and they also extended them to the Philippines. This did not, however, eliminate slavery completely, especially since no laws were made to prohibit slave ownership amongst Filipinos themselves, but it did reduce it considerably.
Overall, Cebu prospered, and new communities began to develop, and the economy grew. Spanish colonialism in the Philippines wasn't actually that bad for the locals, whose standard of living was most definitely improved over the next 3 centuries. The governmental and administrative agencies introduced by Spain had considerable effect in welding the Filipinos into one entity. Numerous barangays, constantly at war with each other, became part of one single united colony. This led up to the Philippine Revolution. During the 19th century, an educated Filipino middle class emerged, and it had a desire for Philippine independence. Opposition before 1872 was primarily confined to the Filipino clergy, who resented the Spanish monopoly of power within the Roman Catholic Church. The real cause of the Philippine Revolt was the political maturation and national awakening of its people, and of course propaganda portraying Spain as a massively abusive empire. So in 1896, the War for Independence against Spanish occupation began.
When the Spanish authorities discovered Katipunan, led by Andres Bonifacio, who openly declared a nationwide armed revolution.
And on April 3rd, 1898, the Cebuano revolutionary soldiers evicted the Spanish forces from the city in the Battle of Tres de Abril, as the local revolutionaries rose up against the Spanish colonial authorities and took control of the urban center after 3 days of fighting. Leon Quilat was betrayed and killed by one of his own men, and the rebels ended up withdrawing a few weeks later. By June, the island of Luzon, with the exception of Manila, was under Filipino control. The first Filipino flag was again unfurled, and the national anthem was played for the first time alongside the establishment of the First Philippine Republic and its revolutionary government. This success wasn't just attributable to the work of Filipino revolutionaries, however, as at the time Spain was also at war with Americans, who managed a major victory in the Battle of Manila, during which they blockaded and captured the capital. The Philippines would not have its real independence yet, however, as on February 4th, 1899, hostilities between Filipino and American forces began, when an American sentry patrolling between Filipino and American lines shot a Filipino soldier. The Filipino forces returned fire and ignited the Second Battle of Manila. The Philippines declared war against the United States on June 2nd, 1899, with Pedro Paterno, President of the Congress of the First Philippine Republic, issuing a proclamation of war. So from 1899 to 1902, the war between Filipino revolutionaries and the United States occurred, resulting in the American colonization of the entire country. Americans who were in favor of annexation had a variety of motivations: desire for commercial opportunities in Asia, concern that the Filipinos were incapable of self-rule, and fear that if the United States did not take control of the islands, another power, such as Germany or Japan, might do so instead. And so with the signing of the Treaty of Paris at the end of the Spanish-American War provided for the secession of Cebu along with the rest of the Philippines to the United States. Cebu grew and expanded throughout the American colonial era as the Americans improved and established modern public infrastructure such as highways, bridges, public services and ports, as well as developing the educational system. In 1936, Cebu, having officially been a town since its inception, became a city. In December 1932, the US Congress started moving towards giving the Philippines independence, leading to the creation and passing of the Tydings-McDuffie Act, otherwise known as the Philippine Independence Act, which allowed the establishment of the Commonwealth of the Philippines with a 10-year period of peaceful transition to full independence. So the new Filipino government embarked on an ambitious nation-building policies in preparation for economic and political independence. Their plans would have to be paused for a while, however. On December 8, 1941, the Japanese launched their invasion by sea from the island of Formosa, otherwise known as Taiwan, and the island of Palau. The defending forces significantly outnumbered the Japanese, but were a mixed force of non-combat and semi-experienced soldiers. While the Japanese used their first-line troops, and by concentrating their forces, they swiftly overran most of Luzon during the first month. Cebu City became an important base for the Japanese during the war, and as a result, it was subject to aerial bombardment by US forces, resulting in widespread damage. Prior to the war, Cebu had been the Philippines' second most important industrial center, and it offered the Allies a harbor for future operations against the Japanese, making it an important strategic target. This led to the Battle of Cebu City. The whole island was garrisoned by a force between 14,500 and 15,000 Japanese troops, mainly situated in Cebu City and on the central east coast. Following preliminary bombardment, the battle began on March 26, 1945, when the Allies launched Operation Victor II. Under the leadership of Major General William H. Arnold. The force consisted of about 5,000 men who landed on Talisay Beach, 4 miles southwest of Cebu City. Meeting no Japanese opposition, the US forces nevertheless suffered heavily from mines and booby traps as they crossed the beach. The troops slowly forced its way off the beach and moved inland against only small pockets of Japanese resistance that were carrying out delaying actions.
First organized enemy resistance is encountered on the outskirts of Pardo, a village 2 miles from Cebu City.
The city itself was not that heavily defended either, as large parts of the Japanese force had withdrawn to hilly and more defensive terrain in the north of the city. During the final stages of the battle, the mountainous parts of Cebu were also bombed and cleared. A series of battles were subsequently fought during this time. The most famous
Hey, good afternoon, good day, good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all here. Ellie, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
Yes, we'll start. Can I introduce you to our team? Audrey, please.
Okay, good day, everyone. We will begin the focus group discussion in just a short while. Before that, just a few reminders. For the participants, please rename your screen name to your organization _ your name. As for the IMF fellows, please rename your screen name to IMF _ your designated chapter _ your name so that we can properly address you during the moderated discussion. As much as possible, position yourself in an appropriate room, free from background noise and distractions. If your internet bandwidth allows, please turn on your cameras, mute your microphones during the presentation of our sharers. Should you ask any questions or raise suggestions, please utilize the raise hand button or the chat box. For future reference, the session for today will be recorded. And lastly, this is the first of 5 FGDs for the Metro Cebu Hackathon. We have 4 more FGDs, and if you would like to join, the details will be shared during the announcement. Without further ado, let me introduce to you my colleague, Ms. Mitzi Light Capuno.
Thank you so much, Audrey. So mabuhay, good day, and welcome to Metro Cebu Hackathon. If you're still wondering what the Metro Hackathon is, I would like to provide you with a quick overview. The Metro Hackathon is a simulated brain shop and capability building activity for IMF fellows together with its local partners, which aims to understand and establish the strategic role of a metropolitan region to the nation's development and the international economy. The workshop series includes revisiting previous development plans, programs, or projects, and answering the basic question or hypothesis, what is the role of Metro Cebu in the world for the next 30 years? We find the event very timely since October is the filing of candidacy for political aspirants here in the Philippines. The result of this hackathon may or could influence their platforms or agenda. To proceed, as you can see on your screen, this is our hackathon timeline. We started in August and will present the results by October. The tentative target date of the presentation of results will be on October 28, 2021. Just to emphasize, the main purpose of this FGDs is to gather data in the hopes of answering our hypothesis. If the hypothesis cannot be answered, then this will be another opportunity for us to collaborate, learn, and find more innovative and creative ways to move forward. Therefore, we would like to encourage everybody here to share their thoughts and opinions, because through active discourse, we will be able to highlight different perspectives and at the same time, produce unique ideas and action plans. This event is mainly organized by 2 organizers, the International Metropolitan Fellowship and the Cebu Leads Foundation. So IMF is an international multicultural and interdisciplinary community supporting governments, academics, and professional sectors, building up and spreading metropolitan discipline to achieve sustainable development. While Cebu Leads Foundation Incorporation is a non-stock, non-profit, and multi-sectoral coalition organized by a group of private sector leaders and organizations advocating for positive change, good governance, and livability of Cebu. Before I give the spotlight to our esteemed resource speakers, we would like to acknowledge first the presence of our participants here in the Zoom meeting. Participants from Mapua University, Philippine Economic Zone Authority, Cebu Leads Foundation Incorporation, Metro Cebu Development and Coordinating Board, Research, Program, and Organizational Development, Cebu Filipino Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Concept, and last but not the least, Universidad Privada de Santa Cruz. Welcome and thank you for joining us as we engage in a focus group discussion about review on Metro Cebu's economic performance. We hope that this event will serve as a platform for innovative ideas and thought-provoking discussions that will lead to a better Cebu. To move forward, let me introduce to you our focus group discussion moderators, IMF Global President Architect Mark Roland de Castro, and Program Coordinator of Cebu Leads Foundation, Mr. Elizar Sabinay. A virtual round of applause, please.
Hi, Ellie. Hi, everyone.
Yeah, Sir Mark.
Okay, so welcome. So in behalf of IMF, we are really grateful for this partnership and collaboration with CLFI. This has been really insightful and informative. The process is moving forward. So as part of that process, the MetroHackaton, we're diving into the economic performance. So previously, Ellie, we did some initial background presentations, particularly about Cebu City. And we found out that the main anchor is the UNESCO designation of Cebu City as a creative city. So moving forward, I think this is a very good opportunity to discuss further in deep dive about the creative opportunities for Metro Cebu. So without further ado, would you like me to introduce the first presenter, Ellie?
Yes.
Okay,
Please
sige,
proceed
thank you.
na
So,
lang.
thank you. So as mentioned before, we were discussing about Cebu City. This time, we will now focus on the 12 municipalities surrounding Cebu City. So we will have a full context of Metro Cebu. So here, we have students from Mapua University, part of our research group who has been doing some research about Metro Cebu and the municipalities. So I'd like to welcome Sharina, their team leader, who will be presenting 15 to 20 minutes time to give an overview of the rest of the 12. Sharina, you may
Yes,
share
sir.
your screen. Yes.
Stephen will be
Hello,
sharing our
sir.
screen.
I will be sharing the presentation.
May we begin, sir?
Yes, you may.
So good afternoon, everyone. We are students of Mapua University Architecture graduating class. And after a brief introduction of Metro Cebu 2 meetings ago, now we will be dwelling and focusing on the other 12 cities and each of their profiles, potential, and how they may contribute to the Metro. Next slide, please. Shown here is the overview of the potential roles and contribution of the Metro Cebu cities, which will be further discussed. Next slide, please. So our first presenter is Andy Basilio on Karkar and Naga City.
Okay, so Karkar was known as Yalo before the Spanish colonization and considered as one of the oldest towns in Cebu. Next slide, please. Thank you. with its Spanish influence that lasted more than 300 years ago. Boasting of well-preserved historical buildings characterized by ornate woodwork, together with Vigan, Taal, and Silay, the city is recognized as one of the most important heritage towns in the Philippines. This heritage city of Cebu has around 50 houses built during the mid-19th century to early 20th century. Its landmarks, like the Carcar Rotonda, a roundabout built in the 1920s, serving as a crossroads for those heading farther south or to Barili and the southwest coast. Near this landmark is the Carcar Public Market, which is home to delicacies such as bocarillo, made from coconut, with the color due to the additional food coloring ingredient, making this more tasty and more attractive. The ampao, made from fried rice, dried patiently and formed through square shapes, and the most famous ones, which are chicharon and lechon of Carcar City. It is also the hometown of many playwrights, musicians, and artists, hence the center of culture and arts of Cebu South. One of which is Mr. Romulo Galisano, who is the second Filipino to win the Grand Award for Portrait Painting. The 2005 International Painting Competition, organized by the Portrait Society of America, wherein the first Filipino who won the award was renowned Filipino painter Juan Luna. Carcar City is the competitor and pioneer of cultural dances, having won many awards in cultural dancing champions. For Sinulog 2018, Grand Champion for Pasigarbo na Susugpo 2011, First Pasigarbo sa Sugbo 2012, and the consecutive holder for Sinulog Festival Queens. Finally, the city is nicknamed as the Marikina City of the South, offering a variety of shoe exposures like leather shoes, sandals, slippers, and they all have type of designs for male and females. I'll be discussing the next city, which is Naga. Next slide, please. Naga is considered as one of the oldest settlements in the province of Cebu. When the Spaniards arrived and explored the coal mining in upland barangays, coal then became the first export product of the town, as the Spaniards mined and sent them to Spain. Second to coal was cement product. The mining industry undeniably triggered the successful industrial development of Naga. And as the years progressed, quite a number of manufacturing companies and other industries flourished in the place and eventually makes Naga. As one of the industrialized locality in Cebu at present, hence the name Industrial City of the South. The city is described as a place that has much room for growth as a new industrial zone and tourism hub. The Naga Valley Industrial Park, or NAVA, a suburban development center, is a 36-hectare property that provides construction-ready subdivided lots for investors and business locators. PPC, which serves as one of the most reputable construction companies in Cebu in the Philippines, chose Naga's Barangay Cantaoan because it has ideal lot sizes and spacious capacity for accommodating new industrial development, particularly for small to medium enterprises wanting to operate light to medium types of industrial facilities. The city is a fast-developing economy, hosting international business, industrial facilities within and around the city. Aside from being an industrial area, Naga also offers attractions, historical sites, as well as exciting travel destinations. Destinations range from hot springs and beaches. It is also rich in extracurricular activities such as mountain climbing, hiking, motorbiking, boating, and kayaking. So the next presenter will be Mr. Rakuya.
Good afternoon. So this is the map of the Compostela. Next slide, please. Compostela is a third-class municipality in province of Cebu, Philippines. It comprises of 17 barangays. Next slide, please. For its historical background, it said that the name Compostela was suggested by a Roman Catholic friar, Father Jose Alonso, who came from town of Compostela in northwestern Spain. Next slide, please. For the culture, Compostela celebrates Quezeo Festival. The festivity is about much sought after dairy product in Compostela, which is the Quezeo or white cheese. Next slide, please. Maybe for the potential, we can introduce cheese sculpting for the creatives for Compostela. Next slide, please. As for economic activities relating to arts, they mostly manufacture furnitures. Next slide, please. Next is the Fernando City. Next slide, please. San Fernando is officially the municipality of San Fernando is the second-class municipality in the province. The place has a total of 21 barangays. Next slide, please. Hmm. Historically, San Fernando and Naga City belongs to one municipality, but by year 1858, they separated from Naga. Next slide, please. They celebrate Sikoy Sikoy Festival. This festivity comes from the word sikoy that refers to the act of net fishing during rough tides. Next slide, please. As for economic activities, they produce large feeds, factories, cement, and steel bars. Next slide, please. Um, um, From this table, we can see that San Fernando has one of the biggest producers of coconut. So as for potential, we can introduce, next slide please. As for potential, no, we can introduce making of pie arts and other creatives like coconut sculpture. For next presenter, Mr. Verde.
Greetings. My name is Steven Verde. I'll be the next presenter. So I'll be talking about Consolacion. So Consolacion is located at the west side of Cebu City and is east of Camotes Sea. It is home for numerous manufacturing industries and also caters to numerous housing projects. Consolacion is known for making castanets, which is a handheld wooden instrument that creates resonating clapping sound, which also is used in a dance called Miligoy de Cebu, which is performed during weddings, baptism, and etc. In Consolacion, there is a festival called Sarok Festival, which is held that involves the sarok, which is a hat made of bamboo, dried banana leaves, and is worn by Cebuanos. So Consolacion is known to be and will be the housing district that will cater the higher ups of the population. It is also affected by the proposal of which will cater a much bigger population of Metro Cebu, which is called Seafront City, that is a reclamation project of Metro Cebu. This could potentially be a good site for a cultural hub since this project will soon become a big part of tourism. The possible cultural hub that could be built would be themed around music and dance. So the next region will be Cordova. So Cordova is a small city located in the south side of Lapu-Lapu. It is a quiet fisherman town off coast of mainland Cebu. Uh, Economic activities involve stone extracting, which was discontinued recently because of its bad effects to the environment, knowing that most of Mactan Island is made of coral rock. Shell gleaning and gathering was an activity of locals which involved foraging of seashells. Gusto farming, which is growing of seaweed as a source of food. People in Cordova are known to give efforts of protecting the environment as a way of gratitude to the Almighty God. It is known to have their culture built around preservation of environment. Cordova is known for the abundance of marine resources, habitats, and mangrove coverage. There is an ongoing construction of a bridge known as Cebu-Cordova Link Expressway that connects Cebu City and Cordova. Cordova is known to have an established marine sanctuaries all focused on protecting mangrove habitat and marine ecosystems. In terms of cultural hub, Cordova may contribute and promote more of their ways of preserving and protecting the environment. The next region is Lilauan City. It is a city located between Compostela and Consolacion. It is known for the light of the north from the word Lilo or whirling waters and is where the Bagakay Point Lighthouse stands, as the picture presents. Lilauan is known for its baking and home goods, also known as Titay's Roquillos, which is a circular baked cookie. Ecotourism thrives in Lilauan City, having resorts and water-based activities. It is also home to a dragon fruit farm and caters ceramic manufacturers.
What?
Okay, so Lilauan celebrates the Roquillos Festival, which is inspired by the baked good. Lilauan also has various water activities, mainly wakeboarding, kayaking, and others. So Lilauan's role in Metro Cebu is that it is home of the Lilauan port, which caters the Roro port, which is a cargo ship that transports wheeled vehicles across Visayas region. Being close to the sea, Lilauan has the advantage to put up sea-based transportation systems. In terms of cultural hub, Lilauan can specialize in the field of seafood cuisine and bakery. Next presenter will be Christian.
Good afternoon. I'll be talking about Danao City. The city is the first town to be founded in the northeastern part of Cebu and is considered as a third-class component city. Among the 13 cities and municipalities within the metro, Danao City has the second largest land area. The city is also only approximately 33 kilometers away from Cebu. Next slide, please. Based on a preliminary analysis on hazardous areas in Metro Cebu, the cities of Karkar, Lapu-Lapu, and Danao still possess considerably large land area available for further urban development. Next slide, please. For Danao City's culture and tradition, they have the Karansa Festival, an annual Thanksgiving and merrymaking celebration of the locals to the city's pottery making livelihood, and in honor to the city's patron saint, Santo Tomas de Villanueva. Held every September, the month-long festival showcases the city's past and present heritage and culture. Among the highlights of the event are the street dance competition, ritual showdown, and the Karansa Festival Queen contest. Besides the festival, they would also organize a music fest, a competition among drummers and percussionist groups, where the winner's musical piece will become the official Karansa street dance music for the following year's festival. These cultural festivities can serve as the center or foundation for potential creative activities within the area. Next slide, please. As for Danao City's role and potential, here are the industrial development priorities of Danao City that can provide more opportunities to people. As they plan to develop the city as a North Gate pole or a suburban center of Metro Cebu, they are also giving priority in the development of information technology, agriculture, agro-industry, and tourism. Additionally, new industrial zones in the northern coastal area of Metro Cebu will give potential to IT clusters, with the city acting as a gateway to northeastern and northwestern municipalities. The role of Danao will be the growth center of the north that will provide opportunities for cultural, industrial, manufacturing, export processing, and commercial development, and will serve as a satellite area for Metro Cebu. Next presenter will be Miss Mara.
Lapu-Lapu City is on the eastern shore of Cebu province. Next slide, please. Lapu-Lapu City, formerly known as Opon, after the city was renamed in 1961. The name came from a Datu, a ruler of numerous indigenous people. Datu Lapu-Lapu is the first Filipino fighter who successfully defeated the Spanish invaders in the battle at Barangay Maktan, fatal to the Spanish leader Magellan on April 27, 1521. Currently, Lapu-Lapu City is a first-class, highly urbanized city in the central Visayas region in the Philippines. It has a population of 497,604 people in 2020. Next slide, please. For the economic activities, Lapu-Lapu City is known for its attractive coastline with world-class resort hotels makes the area a prime destination for foreign and domestic tourists. It is also known as the home to the country's second busiest airport, the Maktan Cebu International Airport. Lapu-Lapu City also has the Maktan Export Processing Zone for exportation and trading. Next slide, please. The city also has a rich, diverse culture like Kadaguan sa Maktan Festival, where they celebrate and honor the victory of Lapu-Lapu. Guitar Festival, for it's known for their guitars and sea sports activities. Next slide, please. Since they are also making high-quality guitars, Alegre Guitar Factory is one of the remarkable guitar makers in Cebu. They sell guitars, ukulele, and bandurria. This can be the potential creative hub activity for Lapu-Lapu City. Next slide, please. The role and potential is, as a major gateway of the region to the rest of the world, it serves as transshipment point of cargoes and people. A major tourist destination for both foreign and domestic tourists, a show window of Philippines culture and products. The next presenter is Miss Ivy.
Good afternoon. I'll be presenting Mandaue City. Next slide. Mandaue City is one of the 3 highly urbanized cities of Cebu province. Others are the Cebu City and the Lapu-Lapu City. Mandaue City is known as the bridge city that connects other cities and provinces from the Maktan airport. Next slide. Here's a mini map to help you distinguish the location of Mandaue City from the rest of the cities and municipalities around Metro Cebu. Next. Mandaue City is dubbed as the furniture center of the country. Mandaue exports 75% of the country's furniture products and houses 40% of Cebu's exports companies, which is around 10,000 commercial and industrial establishments, hence the famous furniture brand of Mandaue Foam. Next. Here are some of the historical sites and landmarks in Mandaue. As you can see, they are concentrated in the southern part where the most of the commercial and industrial areas are, as it is near in the port area in the Maktan Channel. The northern part of Mandaue are mostly residential. Next slide, please. Mandaue Green Learning Park. It is a 10-hectare former dump site, 2 hectares of which has been transformed into a mini forest, and 5 has been put under San Miguel Corporation for development. The site is next. The site is beside the mangrove plantation in Paknaan, along the Cansaga Bay, and a plausible site for future developments such as creative hubs. Next. Here are some of the festivals celebrated in Mandaue. First is the Pasigarbo sa Subo, which is held in the Cebu International Convention Center, shows colorful presentation from the 42 towns and cities of the Cebu province. Next is the Panagtagbo, or the Transtasyon, is a celebration of the gathering of the Holy Family. Next is the Caballo Festival, a festival celebrating horses. The next is the Mantawi, or a showcase of the cultural heritage of the Mandaue. And the Fiesta sa Mandaue is a festival to honor Saint Joseph. Next. Also a proposed project in Mandaue is the Mandani Bay, a high-end development located along the 600-meter stretch of Maktan Channel. It will have a marina and a boardwalk. The project also states that it will include an art and culture district that will showcase local art and music. That's all for Mandaue City. Next, we will have Zarina to present the municipality of Mandani. Thank you.
So this slide shows the Minglanilia's location in Metro Cebu. Next slide, please. So Minglanilia is a first-class municipality of the province with 19 barangays and an annual regular revenue of over 266 million pesos. Next slide, please. Minglanilia is known for its religious festival called the Sugat Kabanhawan, which is a highly anticipated event and devotion held annually every Easter Sunday. This occasion primarily focuses on Sugat sa Minglanilia, which is the reenactment of the meeting of the risen Christ and the sorrowful mother. The event is celebrated with street dancing, games, and other entertainment like cultural shows and fireworks to fully immerse visitors, and guests in its festive and vibrant spirit. The festival is held outside the beautiful church dedicated to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, the town's first church, which was built as a temporary structure in 1856. The municipality also features the Anjo World Theme Park, the first world-class theme park in Cebu, featuring more than 12 world-class rides and attractions for families to enjoy. Next slide, please. Minglanilla has attracted a major investor to construct the 100-hectare Mingmori Techno Business Park, a 6 billion peso reclamation project envisioned to modernize their landscape, which has been issued an environmental compliance certificate by the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, last July 2020. This master planned business hub and world-class estate is envisioned and projected to provide over 75,000 jobs in the municipality. It will have a self-contained township with residential, commercial areas, and light industrial facilities. And with this development, it will fast-track the municipality of Minglanilla into a city to the materialization of the reclamation project, which will propel it to higher heights and cement its role as a major economic player in the province of Cebu. Next slide, please. Lastly, Talisay City. Next slide. Talisay is primarily a residential and local trade center, which has 22 barangays, and one of the notable places is the Pagdaong sa Talisay Monument in Poblacion. This heritage serves as the commemorative mark during the liberation forces of General MacArthur and US soldiers during landings at Talisay Beach in 1945 during the World War II. Next slide, please. Talisay is known and visited for the Fiesta sa Talisay, which is celebrated 15th of October, an annual feast being celebrated by Catholics in honor of their patron, Saint Teresa of Avila. This is the best time to visit relatives and friends in the area to witness celebrations and, of course, the free food and drinks being offered. Cebu is also known to serve the best lechon in the history of lechon. It has come a long way since the early days when people would buy from lechon stalls in Talisay City every Sunday. The popular Leslie's Lechon placed its roots way back in the 1940s in Talisay City, which is now handled by Leslie and Hambre herself, and she calls her culinary art as the best lechon in the world. And as for Talisay's economy, average earners work in offices and various local business entities. The general public does small income earning shops like fish and vegetable markets and other mobile vendors selling food and other small income earning businesses. Farming is also the common source of livelihood and income among farmers with lands or small farms. Coconut, bananas, vegetables, livestock, and fruits are among the most common farm products. Next slide, please.
The potential role of Talisay is the Cebu South Harbor and Container Terminal Complex. The international port aims to provide an alternative gateway for port users and shipping operators in Cebu, decongesting the Cebu International Port. This will allow for more traffic and business to come in. Additionally, the construction and common operation of the port is going to provide hundreds of jobs to Cebuanos, especially Talisaynos. Next slide, please. I'd like to bring this presentation to a close with, for future reference or something to ponder on, given that Cebu City is titled the Creative City of Design by UNESCO, how can we utilize this as the focus of Creative Hub? How we'll be able to connect the cities of Metro Cebu in one Creative Hub? How can the Creative Hub showcase the unique characteristics of the other 12 cities? And lastly, how will the Creative Hub affect the development of Metro Cebu and its surrounding provinces? And that brings us to the end. We'd like to thank you for your time and attention today.
Okay, thank you so much for that very informative presentation. Ellie, I turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you guys for that presentation of yours. No? So you discuss each of the points, no? And I understand na there is pronunciation barriers because you're not from Cebu. No? I've heard Kadawagan, so it's Kadaugan. There are a lot of Bisaya words that you mentioned, And thank you for searching all of that from festivities, focus of every LGU. Now my presentation would boil down what have been the plan of the Cebulis Foundation, because then again, metropolitan planning has been the advocacy of the foundation since we started in 2008. And we have also the founders of the Cebulis Foundation is the one who founded the Metro Cebu Development and Coordinating Board that really aspire to promote metropolitan planning in Metro Cebu to the LGUs that you've mentioned. And we come up with a master plan with the help of JICA. To consolidate everything, I would like to share a video on what is our perception, what is our direction in Metro Cebu by year 2050. This was published in 2015 based on a series of discussion, consultation with different sectoral, physical, spatial, and a lot of things from planning. So would like to share with you the 7-minute video about consolidating what's the direction of Metro Cebu based on Cebulis Foundation's advocacy. Mitzi?
Metro Cebu is the second largest metropolis of the Philippines, which now encompasses 13 local government units. In 2010, its population was about 2.5 million. However, projection of the roadmap study sees more than 5 million in 2050. The natural features of Metro Cebu reveal high hazard risks for landslide and flooding. Only 24% is suitable for urban development free from natural hazards. Like any fast-growing urban area, Metro Cebu is beset with its share of development issues, such as wastewater and solid waste management, flooding and insufficient water supply, and heavy traffic. To respond effectively to these challenges, the Metro Cebu Development and Coordinating Board, MCDCB, in coordination with JICA, embarked on the formulation of a sustainable urban development vision for Metro Cebu 2050. It came up with development strategies of competitiveness, livability, mobility, and most importantly, the metropolitan management. To realize the Mega Cebu Vision 2050, this study crafted the following sub-roadmaps addressing 7 critical issues. Present urbanization trend of the metropolis is concentrated in the already densely populated core urban areas. This results in daily traffic congestion and hampers economic and social activities. The development pattern of a monocentric growth should be refashioned to a polycentric to accommodate 5 million people in 2050. An urban cluster system will be adopted to define urban function. The cities of Danao and Naga could be developed as growth poles next to the core areas. Well-appointed green buffer areas will ensure environmental safety nets for the metropolis. As such, a future spatial plan for the whole Metro Cebu was formulated in this roadmap study in coordination with the 13 LGUs of Metro Cebu. Due to limited road space and network, average vehicle speed in the urban area remained very low. Additional roads are proposed to provide alternate routes for public and private transport. Bottleneck mitigation measures such as modification of intersections, grade separation, road widening, and introduction of area traffic control will be conducted. Likewise, the introduction of a mass transit system network is proposed in order to substantially improve mobility. This starts with the introduction of an automated guideway transit, AGT, airport line to connect Maktan Island and Cebu Island by early 2020s. Additionally, mass rapid transit, MRT lines, with a combined length of 97 kilometers and approximately 50 stations connecting all the cities and municipalities of Metro Cebu, will be operational in phases, starting from 2030 to 2050. Metro Cebu will enjoy a steady economic growth, even in the long term. People's affluence levels, in terms of per capita GRDP, is projected to grow to more than $20,000 in 2050. Annual tourist arrivals breached the 2.5 million mark in 2013 and will continue to increase over the years. the Mega Cebu Investment Board will be established to promote 4 priority sectors. Special attention will be paid for regional branding as well as resources in different economic sectors. One of the challenging issues in Metro Cebu is the inadequacy and poor quality of its water supply. The current water supply will be unable to meet future demand of the metropolis. The over-extraction of underground water, a main water source for Cebu, already causes saltwater intrusion into the aquifer, encroaching up to inland from Cebu City's shore. Due to expanding demand and supply gap, construction of plural dams are essential, requiring urgent consensus building. There are many flood-prone areas in Metro Cebu. An enormous amount of garbage and inappropriate structures along the riverbanks obstruct the flow of natural and man-made waterways. To analyze the problem thoroughly, a comprehensive study for Metro Cebu Integrated Flood and Drainage System Master Plan will be formulated, along with clearing of rivers and constructing small-scale rainwater storage facilities. Surprisingly, Metro Cebu does not have a proper public wastewater management system. Fecal coliform that exceeds acceptable standards was detected at the rivers and sea. Without endangering human health or the natural environment, human and industrial wastes need to be disposed properly. Construction of a septage treatment plant by cluster is a matter of the greatest urgency. Unorganized dump sites are seen in Metro Cebu. A comprehensive solid waste management master plan for Metro Cebu will be required to formulate strategic policy and plan. Moreover, the Waste Reduction and Recovery Program needs strict adherence and follow-through. The South Road property, SRP, is a 300-hectare reclamation area. The development concept of SRP is to become an IT-concentrated industry zone for Metro Cebu, but predominantly holds residential and commercial areas. A unified management system of energy supply and demand in SRP is promoted to realize a smart SRP. To implement the metropolis-wide projects outlined by these roadmaps, an institutional body to handle metropolitan affairs is necessary. That body will consist of not only LGUs, but also the private sector and civil society organizations, referred to as the Metro Cebu model. As a first step for institutional development process, MCDCB will be strengthened to coordinate several types of feasibility studies, arrange project finance, and enhance planning capacity. This institutional body will be developed with enhanced governance function. Metro Cebu Roadmap consists of 7 sub-roadmaps. Based on implementation perspective, 14 anchor programs are selected as high-priority roadmap projects. With these programs, Metro Cebu will take their first step toward Mega Cebu Vision 2050. We welcome all our valuable partners to realize these roadmaps. Together, let us make big waves for the Mega Cebu Vision 2050. Mega Cebu, making waves.
Okay, great. Thank you, Metsino. Just an update on the roadmap. The roadmap was published in 2015, and that became now the reference of majority, I think most of the LGUs within Metro Cebu in terms of updating their CLUP. And that's also our role in the Cebulis Foundation, trying to convince them and influence them to somewhat follow the framework of the roadmap, because the roadmap is adopted in the Provincial Physical Framework Development Plan by the province, although it's not yet approved. It's also adopted by the Regional Development Council, and it's also by the NEDA ICC. So that's the update already of the roadmap study in terms of its reach and its influence to the LGU, because we would like to encourage even the spatial plan are connected within Metro Cebu LGUs. So, and as well, aside from the roadmap, there is another master plan that has been created. We have the Urban Transportation Master Plan that looks at the entire transportation plan of Metro Cebu. It was published in 2019. It's very recent, that shows the current demand, the transportation needs of Cebu, the MRT that you mentioned. So it's now really more specific details. And we have as well master plan on the drainage. No? As you can see, all the discussions and even the presentation that Cebu Needs Foundation is addressing the current problem at hand. No? But looking at in the future and looking at the strategic role of Metro Cebu in the country and the international economy, that is yet to be determined. That's why we have this hackathon today. And thank you for the presentation of the students for giving us a glimpse on the performance and the status conditions of the LGUs within Metro Cebu. So that's it for my presentation. And now we are opening the discussion for open forum.
Okay, thank you, Ellie. That's very insightful, to see again that JICA master plan. So I think two things, from my end. Number one, in terms of that presentation, I don't know if we've already answered what is the global role of Metro Cebu, and number two, what is the role of each of the cities and municipalities, which I agree that this will be the role of our Metro Hackathon. So with that, I think that a very interesting discussion in the chat. Pedro mentioned about the Metropolitan Chess in IMF. For those who, of course, are fellows who have taken the inception course, are very familiar with this approach. So maybe to jump off the discussion, I know we have some few minutes and we'll be continuing the discussion. Maybe Pedro, if you'd like to share briefly about that Metropolitan Chess also for the benefit of other participants, and maybe after that we can have a brief sort of a brainstorming about the 12 or the 13 cities, and then it will spill over to the rest of the FGDs later on. Yep.
Thank you, Mark. Well, the IMF fellows know very well about the chess approach to metropolitan planning. As we all know, and the video on Cebu was very clear on that. The metropolis have to be polycentric and not monocentric. It's not just the main city and the satellites. It's each city playing a different role and playing a role that will help to the general strategy of the metropolis. So this is quite similar to the chess game, where in the chess, the important piece is the queen, it's not the king. You have to protect the king, because if you lose the king, the game is over. But the king has very, very little mobility. And the important one is the queen that really strategizes the whole chess. Generally, the king is the historical center that was important in foundation, but not anymore, because now business and economy grows in other areas. But the main base economy, as the economists call it, base economy, the one that you export, not the one that you produce for the consumption of your own population. The base economy is mainly based in the 21st century on the airport and the international trade and the role that Cebu metropolis has to play in the world, in the Philippine world. And so you have the queen there. You have the bishops that are the main industrial sites that relate to one each other through the diagonals. You have the rooks, which are the very important side cities that complement the structure of the center of the queen and play a peripheral role, but a very important one, because it's really the end of the control of the end of the metropolis. You have the knights, which are those cities that provide services in an area, around that area, to smaller cities and towns and villages. And then you have the pawns, which are really the very basic units of the metropolis, mainly residential and living places and so on. So you see there is a parallelism. Obviously, any analogy is never perfect, and sometimes you need new figures like a rook and a bishop all together and so on. But it gives you a clear idea of the role that this polycentric metropolis has to play, which is very different than the one that really concentrates everything in the center, in the monocentric. We used to use the image that we are not anymore playing dots, where you have to put your dot in the center because it's the most valuable place. You get 10, getting the dot in the center. We have to play chess. And to play chess is knowing what are the role of each of those pieces, and all together create a strategy that will be a winning strategy. In the chat, I had just mentioned, I had just put to a YouTube, 12 minutes, I think, 12 minutes YouTube, that explains all this, although this is just one of the 10, the 20 classes of the IMF fellowship course and test. No, so anyone who is not an IMF fellow, look at those YouTubes. Start by number 1. The one I have linked is number 10, and you will see the whole picture on how you address this metropolitan approach, that chess game, the role, the polycentric role of each of the cities. So I was just happy. In the chat, I put a couple of slides, one about Bogota, the other about Madrid. We have Bangkok, we have Santo Domingo, and so on. I will be very happy to work with any of you on producing the chess game of Cebu, Metro Cebu, or Mega Cebu, as you call it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pedro. Yeah, so two things that Pedro mentioned, the Metro chess. So this is also good for those who are not yet fellows to look into that video so that you can also learn more about the process and the tools that we use in the IMF in terms of metropolitan planning. And number 2, for the purpose of discussion, I don't want to extend too much time on this because we will be discussing further in the succeeding FGDs. But I'd like to briefly touch on the chess game, Pedro, and others, maybe to initially discuss about the pieces. So we have in front of us the Metro Cebu City and municipalities, the 13 units of Metro Cebu. So I don't know if I can. Okay, I can. So I think two things. Again, the global vision, we'll try to answer that in the succeeding brainshop sessions. But for now, for the purpose of initial discussions, maybe it will be good, Pedro, and the others to have a sort of a brainstorming. So you mentioned about the queen, Pedro. So the queen should be the one that is protected, the most important component, the most important unit. Is it safe to say that Cebu City?
Well, I don't know how far Cebu City does everything on their own. I don't know if Cebu City inside Cebu has the king, the queen, the bishops, the knights, and so on and so on. No, but normally those metropolises which are really internationally linked, that have an international role, the queen is the business around the airport. Not the planes, but all the airport cities and all those businesses. I don't know Cebu, but my feeling is that Lapu-Lapu, the island, would be the queen. No, and you mentioned as well 2 decentralization locations. I don't remember the names. I don't know if it was Naga, one in the south, another one in the north, Danao. For me, those would be the rooks. No. For me, those will be the rooks. And then I don't know if you have an industrial area, an important industrial, a set of industrial areas. Those industrial areas are generally clustered. You have similar industries, each other competing in the same area and having provision of the same kind of external services. Those areas, I don't know where they are, but those will be the bishops. And then the small municipalities, the small villages will be the pawns. And then those places where those villages are serviced, I mean, when they go to do any administrative work or any larger commercial shopping or whatever, those will be the knights. So I am happy to work. By the way, Compostela is a name that comes from Roman, from Latin, because as you know, the Spanish were invaded by the Romans that were very harsh on the Spanish, and they imposed their culture, their law, and their language. And Compostela means field of stars. Campo, field, and stella, stars, field of stars. I don't know if anyone in Compostela knows the origin of the name. No. Anyway, I will be very happy with you to work on providing a kind of image of the chess game of Metro Cebu or Mega Cebu.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think that's a good initial discussion about the Metro chess approach. Ellie, I turn it over to you. Well, as a question first regarding the industrial cluster that Pedro mentioned. Is there such a place right now in Metro Cebu? Would you assume is it Mandaue or Consolacion?
Yeah, it's Mandaue City. They are recognized as the industrial city of Cebu, no? Industrial city of Cebu itself, the entire Metro Cebu. And in terms of manufacturing, we have Naga. That's why Naga is considered as the next Naga in the south and the Danao City as the next centers of growth in Metro Cebu, which is in chess, it's called by identified as the bishop, Naga City and the Danao City. Then yeah, actually the airport, just a quick background for everybody, the airport in Lapu-Lapu was located first in Cebu, but during the a period of time 1980s, during the Cebu, we call it the Cebu, it's where really the sudden increase of the economic boost of the entire, not just Cebu City, but the entire Metro Cebu was stretched just during Cebu, during the time of Sergio Osmeña and Lito Osmeña, the Osmeñas. So that's where they decide to transfer the airport to Lapu-Lapu. So that's the time where they convert the Lapu-Lapu, the airport, to currently right now the IT park of Cebu City in Lahug. And the airport is now transferred to Maktan. So, but that was around 1980s, late 1980s to 1990s. So that's how the roadmap also identified, and that's also how the LGU identified themselves. Because during the consultation meeting, we also asked them, what is your vision for the LGU? As you know, every mayors, every executive has their own vision. So which we just align it, consolidate it, and come up with an overall roadmap in Metro Cebu.
Okay, thank you, Ellie. I think that's a good initial discussion. Pedro, we can feed this to you and to IMF, to the rest of the fellows, so we can further review about this Metro chess approach. Ellie, if there are no further discussions, I don't know if there are further questions, but conscious also of the time, in the Metro Hackathon, we do this 1 hour to 1.5 hours so that we optimize really concise discussions. I understand, Ellie, the next discussion will be on Wednesday, right? On the physical aspect, I think September 28th,
yes,
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 29.
Can you present it, Audrey? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we can discuss about the next schedules of the Metro
next
Hackathon
sessions. Yep. Yeah, so just to give you an overview on the next hackathon, so we have the review of right now, the economic performance. The next would be next week, Wednesday, September 29, where we'll talk about the physical environment. We invited the DNR for this to discuss with us the environment, not just Cebu Island, but we are zooming into Metro Cebu and also the demographics of Metro Cebu in terms of population and everything. No? Followed by October 1, we'll talk about understanding socio-political environment of Metro Cebu. Here in Cebu, we have one university. I think the entire Visayas, we have only one university that offers anthropology and history. So they will be sharing to us their studies that they have been conducting on the socio-political environment of Cebu. What makes Cebu right now based on what happened before. So that's a good discussion. And we have already the chairman from the University of San Carlos Anthropology Department confirmed to share to us their study, followed by Metro Cebu governance, would still be an academe, and we also invited from the Department of Interior Local Government about Cebuano politics. It's very important to look at what happened to Cebu and what makes Cebu right now in terms of the political arena. Then we'll end with the creative industry. This is our part 2, but more likely, by this time we are able to answer the hypothesis in mind: is Metro Cebu capable of being the creative hubs of the country, the Philippines. So that's our overall FGD sessions. And if you would like to join all the sessions, no problem. You can register to the link provided on the screen. If not, you can select any FGDs you want to join.
Thank you so much, Ellie. And I think this was a good follow-up discussion on about Metro Cebu, especially now diving on the 12 other cities and municipalities composing Metro Cebu. So from IMF's end, we'll try to come up with some initial Metro chess diagrams for Wednesday that we can continue discussion, and we also look forward to the presentation of DNR in terms of the Metro environment. So in behalf of IMF, we are very happy with everyone for your participation, and we look forward to you for joining us in the next sessions. We'll share the recording, Ellie, right? We'll share the recording.
Yes.
And
We'll
all of
share
the
the
video
recording.
links. Our objective really here is to gather as much stakeholder participation. We are forming this Metro Hackathon because of the limited mobility we have right now with the lockdown and with the pandemic, but our hope really is that by October we answer the most important question, which is what is the global role of Metro Cebu that can become an agenda, in the coming national elections, local elections, that we can support, and hopefully by next year we can have a full-blown brain shop. Yep, Ellie, thank you. So before we leave, maybe we can have a group photo and some final words from you from CLFI.
Yeah, thank you, Sir Mark. Thank you, Sir Pedro and the rest for joining us. Before we leave, we will be sharing all the videos, and we will be also asking IMF to download it in the YouTube so that other participants, other fellows could see it. Also, one last request: can you turn on your camera for a quick photo op for everybody? At least it's scripted compared before it's stolen. Some are closing their eyes, some are opening their mouth. So this time it will be more directed photo shoot. Okay.
So it would be good for everyone so that we have our documentation of those who participated in the Metro Cebu Hackathon. This will be documented. At the end of this, we'll have a sort of a book, a publication coming once able, that can be a reference, future reference for future Metro plan for Metro Cebu. Yep. So again, thank you everyone. Senor Pedro, thank you for joining us. I know it's the time there in Madrid, and we look forward to seeing the headquarters of IMF. So for those who want to join IMF, you may click the YouTube link that Pedro shared. We can share the website also. It's www.internationalmetropolitanfellowship.org. So you can see all of the information about the IMF. And of course, CLFI has been really spearheading this initiative. Thank you very much, and we look forward to this long-term collaboration. Okay na ba yung photo? I think we can.
Can I take the photo now?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, again. 1, 2, 3, smile for a better Cebu. And Waki, last na lang. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
See you
Thank
on
you,
Wednesday
everyone.
for the.
See you on Wednesday.
See you on Wednesday.